world moves fast. Your workday, even faster. Pitching products, drafting reports, analyzing data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is your AI assistant for work. Built into Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and other Microsoft 365 apps you use. Helping you quickly write, analyze, create, and summarize. So you can cut through clutter and clear a path to your best work. Learn more at Microsoft.com/M365 Copilot.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just
speaking into the void?
But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
I have created the most advanced AI soldier.
The wait is over. Tron Ares now streaming on Disney+.
We are looking for something you've discovered. And some of us will stop at nothing to get it.
Ready?
The countdown is complete.
There's no going back.
Our directive is clear.
Hang on!
Tron Ares now streaming on Disney+. Rated PG-13.
Hello everyone, I'm Chris Wynn and welcome to How Are the podcast. And for those of you who have regularly listened to our little old pod since the beginning, will know that we like to fill the international breaks with a couple of different formats. And because it's been a while since we did a top 10, because if you look back, we've done managers, defenders, fullbacks, which is a pod that we still talk about the choices on even today. We did strikers, and there's probably more that we did out there that I can't even remember. I think we did games as well, because I think a few of the games today might have been mentioned in those pods. But we thought we'd do another one today during this international break. And there was only one real option available to us after Sunday's win up the road. Because what we're going to do is we are going to rank our victories over the Mags in the Stadium of Light era. And because there's been 11, we decided not to drop one, and we included them all. So instead of a top 10, it's a bit of a top 11. We'll do this across two parts. So for part one today, I have two gentlemen with me who you might have heard on the Q&A pod the other day, putting the Mags in their place after our win on Sunday. They also have a tough job today of placing them in the order of their enjoyment on the day. Because first up, we have Andrew Smithson. Hello, Andrew.
Hello, mate. Hello, everyone. Very crafty way of not getting into trouble with the BBC for stealing their top 10 idea by going for a top 11. So they can't pin us this time for that.
Well, usually I do mention them, but I might just mention it just in case before we get into it. But yeah, we were saying before, because I was quickly scribbling a couple of notes down beforehand. But it's like picking between your kids with some of these wins over the Mags, isn't it?
Oh, it is. It's tough. And as well, when I sent the list to you when we were doing the preparation, I had to make it clear which 3-0 or which 2-1 I was talking about. I think there was even a year where we had 2 wins over them in the space of a few months. So yeah, it's hard because picking favourites out of a list like this is extremely tough.
Yeah, that's it. I was going backwards and forwards, and I had to do the same because I was like, hang on, that was April 13, that one was October 13, and then there was 2 in 2014, there was 2 in 2015, so there's a period there where they all just kind of merge into one big 3-0 win, isn't it? But yeah, but also with us today, we have someone who brilliantly articulated how that lot up the road annoy him on the Q&A pod a few days ago, which is, of course, Ant Waterson. Hello, Ant.
Hello, yes. Yeah, I've calmed down a little bit, I think. I must admit, writing...
Disappointed now?
Well, right, you never know what to do. It might bring it all back. Like, it might be like post-traumatic stress disorder. It is what it is. But yeah, like obviously writing this list that I did last night for this just brought back some wonderful memories. So it was really, really nice to go down memory lane and watching some of these, obviously watching some of them with my dad and stuff like that, who doesn't go to the games anymore. So it brought back a lot of really, really good memories. So really looking forward to talking about them all. And 11 wins, 11 wins. How many have they won in that time? About 3. Not many.
Well, that's it. Well, look, when you go back through them, Ant, we talked about winning at their place. We talked about big wins at the Stadium of Light, and when we'll go through them. But was there a split? Did that come into it, whether it was home or away?
I think I always enjoy the ones when I'm there a little bit more. But however, like obviously without going into too much detail, like the one I put as number one, I was not there, but I watched it, if you know what I mean by that. I was at the stadium, but I was watching it on a beanbag, which is maybe going into a little bit of a spoiler alert. But I do prefer the ones where you're actually there watching the game. But even like I was even like going back through even some of like the draws, which we got like the 2-2 when they went 2-0 up and Phillips scored twice. I think Chris Maker had like 3 or 4 shots and Harper was making all them saves. Asamoah Gyan getting that last minute winner where it just deflects off him and goes in. But there's some lovely moments even in them ones. I was thinking Danny Higginbotham, I think he got one, didn't he? I was thinking some of them moments are really, really good. And then, I mean, like, kind of like, we won't talk about the 4-1 or the 5-1 or anything like that because that wasn't enjoyable whatsoever. But apart from that, no, a really, really, really good list. Really enjoyed it. But I think, as you said, probably the ones where you're there, I think matter the most. And obviously the lads that were there, obviously on Sunday, would know exactly what I mean about that. Even though we enjoyed it in the pub and everything like that, I was so jealous of like everyone who was there. But they had a really, really good time. So fair play to them, right?
Yeah, and a tip of the hat, everyone who was there on Sunday at St James's Park up in the Gods, because actually there's been some brilliant videos doing the rounds of fans like getting into Newcastle and running the gauntlet with the Newcastle fans either side. And there's a brilliant video going around of one bloke just looking at the ball going, why don't you just go for a pint?
Yeah. I like the lad in the wheelchair, me. Like, the lad in the wheelchair makes it for me. Like, it's so good. So good. Buy him a pint, whoever his carer is, you've got my permission. I mean, give me the money, buy him a pint.
Well, yeah, that fellow who just says, what you doing watching us walking along a road? Just go for a pint, for God's sake. You know what I mean? But Andrew, yeah, just on what Ant was saying there, we're going to talk about them, of course. God, the game is everything at the end of the day, but a lot of, I bet your ordering comes down to what you were doing on the day, because there was one of these that I had a bit of a family emergency on the weekend, couldn't get to the game. And it was actually Defoe's volley. And I was off flying back up on the motorway, so hopefully that would win and I'd get back out for a drink afterwards. But I was flying up the motorway and we scored, and there was a services just as we scored. I had to pull into the car park, and I had to open the door and just jump around the car park like a madman. And everyone in the car park was looking over, wondering what the hell was going on. But that does come into it, doesn't it? What the games you're there, or the games you have a good day as well, isn't it?
Oh, dead right. Like Ant said, it might be a game that you went with a family member, so there's special emotional, personal reasons attached to it. That Defoe game, like you, Chris, I couldn't be there. So when anybody talks about that volley, there's always that tiny little part of us that thinks, "Oh, shut up, man, shut up." I wish we'd just kind of got like a scruffy winner instead that's gone in off somebody's backside. But yeah, I think your personal memories and the stage you are in life matters as well.
Yeah.
You'll always remember the first time you saw Sunderland beat Newcastle.
Yeah.
So it all adds to the mix.
Yeah. Yeah, and at this point, I really wish we had Gav with us, because Gav famously, and he's mentioned this a few times, went for a piss just before the ball dropped to Defoe to volley in, however far out it was. I think it adds a few yards on it every single year. But yeah,
I
Gav.
was literally just coming back up the gantry. Like, I'd been for a piss, walked up, just got to the pitch where it fell to his foot. So I'd just seen it. And I had a really, really good view of it as well, like from where I was standing. So that was quite good. And then literally swarms of people just jumping at us. So that was a great time.
It's
Well,
just
that's it.
sorry, Chris, I was going to say it's just as well that somebody in Roker Report's actually seen that goal. For a bunch of supposed Sunderland fans, none of us have seen one of the most famous goals ever.
I mean, if you said there, and you were there, going for a piss as well, it would have sounded like a conspiracy to not let anyone watch the goal that day because it was just one of those. But yeah, it does go into it because of course, if you're there and you're soaking it in, it is different. But look, let's get into it because we've got so many games to get through. Of course, we've got a top 11 to get through. So, gents, let's get into it. And yeah, I'll mention it because Andrew's already gone through it. Because those unfamiliar with the top 10 format, we've shamelessly stolen the Match of the Day top 10 format, which usually picks 10 things to rank in order. But today, of course, we've got our 11 games that Andrew and Ant have got to place in order of their enjoyment for reasons they will explain. But it will, of course, allow us to go through all of the games, which can't be a bad thing either. We're going to work through them in chronological order, and the lads can tell us where they've ranked them, and then we can average them out. I quickly scribbled down an order as well, so we've got a bit of an average at the end to see what our order was at the end, and then you can send in what your order is and see how it matches up. I imagine it'll be different because looking at Ant and Andrews, there's one. Well, one of them have got one top that the other has got 10th in this list.
Holy moly.
So you can see if we don't agree, you're not going to agree with us. So let's just put it that way. So we need to start off and we need to go all the way back to the very first derby between the two sides after we moved to the Stadium of Light, because obviously that's where our starting point is, which of course was August 1999. And we did party like it was 1999 on this day. It was 25th of August 1999. And actually, we'd just been promoted to the Premier League, of course, after that record-breaking title win to get promoted under Peter Reid, 105 points. And nobody quite knew what was going to happen. Bizarrely, that summer, we lost the likes of Alan Johnson and Lee Clark, of course. I'm going to mention Andy Melville because that'll make Andrew smile. And we also lost Michael Bridges as well. So we lost a lot of players that people, of course, forget during that summer. But we, of course, bought Stefan Schwarz. And this was early in the season, and we'd won one of our first games. We'd won one of our first 4 games, Andrew. But Ruud Gullit was about to do us a favour, and he had an interesting team sheet, didn't he?
He did, and I don't think it did him much good because after deciding not to play Alan Shearer, and it must have been Duncan Ferguson was the other one that he dropped.
Both of them on the bench?
Yes, they were both on the bench, and it must have been pretty soon afterwards that he got the bullet. I mean, if you're a Newcastle manager and you're opting not to pick Alan Shearer for the big derby game, you've got to hope that the players you do pick pull you out of the mire, because it was massive. It was that day, I think, because of the weather, it was like biblical rain, and the fact that Gullit didn't pick those two. There was loads of iconic moments and loads of famous photos of him just stood there, absolutely darked, thinking, "What have I done? I've signed my own death warrant here." So yeah, that was the start of it. But I mean, from Sunderland's point of view, it was a brilliant night, wasn't it? It was fantastic.
It was unbelievable, wasn't it? And it was like biblical weather. The rain was absolutely lashing down. And you sometimes forget as well, because sometimes you just get caught up in the we beat the Mags. But 2 goals, like the quality of the goals as well. You know, Mickey Gray's cross that he dug out in Alcuin to header that ball in. In fact, we went behind as well. And we're a newly promoted side. And then Kevin Phillips, who you thought he'd lost his chance when Tommy Wright saved that first one. Then he just turned around and you thought, is he going to lay it off? Is he going to cross it? Is he going to pass it? He just spins in one movement and hooks it over Tommy Wright's head. And I still don't know how he got the angle and scored that. I don't think he gets the credit for that goal that he actually deserves, because people forget in celebrating just a win over the Mags. But absolutely incredible night with Travis seeing us out for Match of the Day and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, definitely. And you know what? Like, going back and going back on this game, so I was at the Beanbag, I honestly forgot it was in August. I thought, because I can just remember it being horrible. Like, I thought, oh, it must have been October, November or something like that. But it was, the weather was horrendous. And obviously, it did play a little bit of a part in the game. But obviously, you mentioned there Phillips's goal. I mean, it's a wonderful goal, one of the best goals scored in a derby by a little, probably beaten by only Jermaine Defoe, which we spoke about before, but just the cleverness of him to do that, and that's what he was, wasn't he? You know, he was just one of those strikers who scored every single type of goal there was. You know, when it fell to him for the second time, you knew he was going to score, just you didn't think he was going to do it in that motion, like a little spin, and just flicked it over Tommy Rice, who was about 58 in that game. So, oh, no, it was a great win. It was my first win as a Sunderland fan. Like, watching them win that one, I was 13, and I can't remember the playoff ones in like late 80s and early 90s. I can't remember them ones. So like that one, for the first one, I can remember getting in on them, and obviously we'd had the last time we were in the Premier League, you know, with them beating us in Roker Park. I remember that and getting absolutely ridiculed at school. So this was a nice one to get back when I was 13-year-old. Like, there was some comebacks, but it was a wonderful day. And then the only downside was after we'd finished, because we'd been pissing down in Newcastle, the rain then came to Sunderland. It was absolutely horrendous trying to get back to the car. But no, it was a great day. Really good night. Really good night watching them.
Yeah, well, I was at the beanback that night because the club did a beanback at the Stadium of Light, and actually, Andrew, as Ant said, you know, we hadn't beaten them since that playoff game in 1990, and we'd gone 6 games without beating them, and of course they kind of took off, so they kind of disappeared into, you know, the kind of, you know, challenging for the title and stuff like that, and we were so far behind them for a long period in the 90s, and then for us to end the decade like this. To go to their place and beat them like we did, and just on the conditions as well. I remember walking back up Newcastle Road, and I'll never forget, there was a old woman standing in our doorway, and she must have been in her 80s, and she was just standing in our doorway, in the rain was beating down, and she was just going, "Everyone, get in," just screaming like that. And it just kind of summed the night up. It was absolutely brilliant. But the other thing that summed it up was about 20 minutes ago, Kevin Ball replaced Alex Ray, and it nearly all went wrong, didn't it?
It just added to the fun and games. But yeah, that moment when the ball was sailing towards our goal from Kevin Ball's slide tackle, I think we're talking about Tommy Wright must have been 58. I think that put a few years on me as well. Like, I think I felt like I was knocking on 60. It just time stood still as it sailed through the air, and it crashed off the bar, and everyone's like, "Crikey, thank God for that." Like both of yourselves, lads, I was at that beam back, and I think I've said, Chris, whilst you were making your way up Newcastle Road, I was going up Fulwell Road, and people were just leaning out the cars, beeping their horns, and all of this, and we got to the flying boat, and you said there, match of the day, it played Travis, Why Does It Always Rain on Me? I mean, it's mad that coming up to 30 years later, we can remember what song was used on the outro for match of the day. You know, people were singing along to it in the pub. It was memorable. And you make a great point about the 90s. We'd beat them at the start of the decade in the playoffs. And then we had 10 years of, quote, the entertainers, as they like to think of themselves. And Sunderland were kind of like left.
Honey Monster.
Yeah, exactly. And little old Sunderland there were like left behind and were like scrapping around in the second tier for survival. And then suddenly we got promoted, and we'd ended the decade by like being on a level footing with them again. So it did have that like important symbolism to it. And I just yeah, like you, I was at an age where I was young and carefree and just happy days. That beanback was wild.
Yeah.
Well, you'll never get beanbacks these days because of dodgy fire sticks and that. But I tell you what, I didn't mind a beanback in the day. They were always good fun.
was good. Well, people watching on their phone now. People couldn't do that back in 1989. But yeah, I mean, you've got this one fourth, and Ant's got this one fifth in your lists, gents. And you mentioned Tommy Wright being in goal. I'll give you three guesses for who was on the bench, sub-keeper for Newcastle, because he spent his whole career there. It was Steve Harper, of course.
Was it really?
It was. Yeah. But the interesting thing is people talk about the Paul Robinson thing and, that Tullett did that and it backfired. When he came off the pitch, replaced by Duncan Ferguson after 57 minutes, it was 1-0 to Newcastle. And then he brought Alan Shearer on 72 minutes when it was 1-1, and 3 minutes later, Kevin Phillips scored. So it's interesting that Duncan Ferguson and Alan Shearer never got the blame for that. It was all on Paul Robinson, but they were winning when he left the field. The other thing before we leave that is this triggered a run for Sunderland where we lost only once in 13 games after this. And it was kind of the springboard for us taking off that season. But yeah, you've both got this in your top five, but we'll move on to the next one because we could probably talk about that for days on end, I think, because the second one, was the following season at St. James's. Because actually, interestingly enough, looking at the record from after we moved into the Stadium of Light, we're actually unbeaten in the first 5 derbies after we moved to the Stadium of Light. But by this time, Bobby Robson had taken over at St. James's, and I have to admit, it's a man who I always had a lot of respect for, a lot of time for. I always liked Bobby Robson. I thought he was a fantastic man. But yeah, we went there in November 2000, the following season, and funnily enough, won 2-1 again. But and they went ahead through Gary Speed. But the equaliser came from somebody who was, of course, grew up a Newcastle fan, didn't he?
Don Hutchison, yeah. Another beanbag, funnily enough. I mentioned how much we love beanbacks. There's no wonder, is there? We're talking about two games where we've won 2-1 has been a beanbag. But you're right, and I would just want to echo you about Bobby Robson. Again, obviously, Bradford's aside, just a wonderful, wonderful man. And the same for me goes for Gary Speed. Taking far too soon from us. Wonderful footballer, but he had to play for them, but a wonderful footballer. And yeah, he put them 1-0 up, and they were quite comfortable, weren't they? I think first half we just didn't show up, and then obviously second half kind of reminded us of Sundays actually, where we've just completely took control of that game, and yeah, resulted in a nice little finish by Hutchison, who one of the greatest celebrations because he hasn't got a curve, he's on side, and he looks about 7 times, doesn't he? You look at if it's on or not, and then he's like, "Yep, it's in," celebrating all that. And
I think if there's VAR there, he doesn't celebrate. He walks off, doesn't he?
I think if it's VAR, yeah, I think that's it's still 1-0 Newcastle, but never mind. Thank God for the technology that we didn't have in November of 2000. But no, a great win. Like I say, a really, really good finish from him as well. And we only had one season here, but I thought he was excellent for us. I really did. It was a shame he left. Because I really did think he could have kicked on at Sunderland, but I think he wanted to go back to London, didn't he, and all that palaver, and never was quite the same when he left Sunderland, I don't think. But no, a really good goal for him, and he went mental, we went mental, and it was only to get better. I'll segue Andrew into that.
Well, by this point they had Shea Given in goal, and actually they had Steve Caldwell at the back for them that day. He was in the starting 11 for the Mags. But yeah, and it was funny because we spoke to Julio Arca about this in the build up to the derby last week. So if anyone wants to go back and listen to that, because Newcastle were winning 1-0, as we said, with Gary Speed, and on 66 minutes he came onto the pitch. And then a minute later, Don Hutchison got that equaliser, as was talked about. And then I think it was less than 10 minutes after that where Niall Quinn put us ahead. And then it was less than 10 minutes after that where Niall Quinn, having given us the lead, did a bit of a mess in our box, didn't he?
Again, man, it's like the Kevin Ball incident. It worked out in the end, so it just adds to the narrative for me. Beautiful work by Ant there, kind of setting me up for the second goal. You said, Chris, that Shea Given was in net. It could have been the tallest man on earth in goal. He wasn't going to reach that header because it was inch perfect by Quinny. I think it was was a bit of like lovely play down the wing. And Michael Gray, obviously a Sunderland lad, put in this fantastic cross. So again, that added to it. So yeah, the Sunderland player playing for Sunderland has an important hand in our winner, whereas the Newcastle fan playing for Newcastle has a hand in it all going wrong and missing not missing the penalty.
Yeah.
Tommy Sorensen makes the save. It's a brilliant save. It's the only time I've ever been to St. James's for a first team game. And if you could have asked me before what would have been my dream script, it would have been Sunderland winning and Alan Shearer letting down all those tens of thousands of fans that worship him. I mean, just forget what he is as a footballer and what he is to Newcastle fans. I really don't like him. I think he's a really disagreeable fella. There's so many times he says something on TV or on his podcast, and I just think you're coming across like a bear, or you're coming across as just this really. I mean, I know it's hypocritical for me to say, but he's just coming across as like such a miserable bloke. I don't want anything to do with you. So for him to have had such a big involvement in. And there was like cameras on the fans expectant as he runs up to take the kick, and then you see their faces when Sorensen saves it, and their little hearts are breaking. Oh, it's just sweet, just a lovely day.
Yeah. Well, you've got this third, and Ant's got this top of his list. This is number one for Ant. This is the best derby of the 11 for you, Ant. But as Andrew said, everything into the mix for this, for to have an Alan Shearer penalty. And it's funny that we're starting to talk about these, the little the incidents in these games to give Newcastle hope, whether it's 09 gifting them a goal in the recent ones, which we'll come on to, or Shearer saving a penalty, or Kevin Ball hitting his own bar from 30 yards. There always seems to be that twist, always twisting the knife a little bit. But I always remember, Ant, and Andrew touched it, as soon as Andrew said it there, I remember when the camera did go on the crowd when they were given this penalty, and it was two fellas right in the front, and one was going, come on, because he just thought, well, Shearer's scored this. But interestingly, Shearer always hooked it, didn't he? He always went to the top left corner. And for this, he tried to hit it to his right, and Sorensen called his bluff, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it's a magnificent save. It's a magnificent save from him. Like, as much I like Andrew's little rant about Shearer there, but he did score. I think he scored more than he missed in the penalties wise. But Sorensen had his number, didn't he? Because that led to, I think Sorensen saved like 4 penalties from Shearer, in his career. Definitely had but this was just top. Like, as you said before, it was like a horrible tackle by Quinney. I think it's the only time he's ever put a foot in the box. You know what I mean? Thankfully, because it was awful. And you're thinking, oh God, and we did so well to like get back in front, and that high from Quinney scoring, which was like just a lovely goal, as we said, and going mad and all. And then I just remember the being back and everyone just being so quiet when it was like stepping up. And I think I was with my dad and my dad's mate Stewie, and Stewie goes, he's missed this, man. Don't worry about it. And I was like, nah, he never does it. When he saves it, man, just that I'll never forget that moment. I'll just never forget this. Why I've got it as number one, because that's probably it's in my top 3 of moments supporting Sunderland. And it was up until the last 6 months, the best moment was literally just having that with me, my dad, and me, his mate and his son and all that, just everyone literally just hugging each other, just random people going around just hugging each other when he missed that penalty. It was so good. Didn't even know what happened with the rebound. They could have put the rebound in for all we knew. You know what I mean? It was like 5 minutes later, we're still jumping up and down. It was unreal, and that's why that is why it's number one for me, just for that moment, for that save for Sorensen, because I think Sorensen was already a hero in Sunderland's eyes then anyway, but that just put him as a legendary status as a goalkeeper. And I know we mentioned a few podcasts ago, I think me and Gavin mentioned, Sorensen will still be my favourite goalkeeper just for that moment. I think we may have had better since, but for me, like, it was just unbelievable. And I don't think he kind of knew how much that meant until he got back until he got back home and stuff. And also as well, it just has to be mentioned as well, this was the Crabbers commentary. This was the Crabbers, Sting, Donna Ray, Alan Shearer, Tony Blair. Can you hear me, Tony Blair? Your boys have taken one hell of a beating. And on one of my very first podcasts, we interviewed Crabbers. Me and Graham, it was no longer with the pod. We interviewed Crabbers, and I've remained friends with Crabbers since. We text each other now and again and stuff like that. And he remembered going on that, and he never had to buy pint and something again after that commentary. He was loved. So fair play to him. I know he listens. So Crabbers, we love you still, mate. And that for me, yeah, absolutely brilliant. Even the dogs agree, and that's how good it was.
It's just as well he didn't try and do those famous lines in the previous derby, because I think it was that wet at some of the radio stations. I'm sure all their equipment got damaged by the rain, and the Sunderland fans all had to be given free ponchos because they didn't have a roof on them. I'm just thinking there, Chris, you make a great point about twisting the knife. Those three players there, Kevin Ball, Niall Quinn, and Luke O'Nien, have all at various points been called Mr. Sunderland. And they're the ones who've given these moments of hope to the Mags. So all I'll say is the next person to be christened Mr. Sunderland, do not pick them to play at St. James, because they'll go and do something horrific, and it'll all blow up in their face. There must be something about being called Mr. Sunderland.
Yeah. Well, this, like I said, this is our second season in that Premier League after finishing seventh the season before. And actually, we talked about the run that it led to in the first season. This one, after this, we lost once in the next 10, which took us up to second in the Premier League table. So once again, a win over the Mags was a springboard to what happened next. But I think that's
yes, you got to remember about that. Joe Cole was mint for West Ham because we never got bloody mentioned when we were second in that on Match of the Day. Remember, I think we beat West Ham, and it was like, oh, well done, Sunderland up to second league. Would everyone see Joe Cole? I was like, the first, honestly, that was like, I can just remember the first time I've ever screamed at the television.
I absolutely love, after 26 years, how angry you still are about that.
I'm still bitter about it now. I honestly, I still am. I still look at Gary Lineker in a different way just because I like it now.
and it'll be on his deathbed going, bloody Match of the Day, bloody Joe Cole.
Not only do we rip off their podcast formats, but now slagging them off for editorial decisions from half a quarter of a century ago.
And rightly so, from what Anne said. But yeah, I think that's a really good chance for us to take a quick break. Now we've done those ye olde ones, and we'll come a bit further into the future when we get back. So we'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Are you stuck staring at your W-2? Are tax refund worries holding you back? You probably have FOMO, the fear of messing up. The fix? Using TurboTax on Intuit Credit Karma. They find every credit and deduction to help you get every refund dollar you deserve, or your money back. It's time to overcome your fear of messing up and get your taxes done right. Start filing today in the Credit Karma app.
This episode is brought to you by Alexa Plus. Say hello to Alexa Plus and see how Alexa can do more for you. Need tickets to that last-minute show? Craving your favorite restaurant? Sit back, relax, and talk naturally. Alexa's on it. Alexa learns your preferences to create a personalized experience. And now, Alexa Plus is free with Prime on your Amazon devices, like Echo and Fire TV. Learn more at amazon.com/Alexa Plus.
Whether you bond over streaming binge-worthy videos, watching sports recaps, video gaming, or by unplugging altogether, the 2026 Lincoln Nautilus Hybrid helps keep you connected throughout your journey. Learn more at Lincoln.com. Available connectivity features and functionality vary by model. Package pricing, trials, and term lengths vary by model. Video streaming and games are only available while parked.
And welcome back to Howie the Podcast. And we did try and see it before we started recording that. We'd try and fly through some of these, but got those old memories. You just want to go on and on and on about them. I think if we could do it, probably an hour on each one, to be honest. But for the third one, we fast forward a little bit because we come forward to October 2008, because we actually went a run of 9, I think, without a win after those two games that we've already covered. And we, like I said, we fast forwarded to the 25th of October, 2008. Roy Keane and Joe Kinnear are in the dugouts. And of course, we were on the back of this kind of magic carpet ride, and we'd already had a season in the Premier League. And then Roy Keane tried to step it up, with the likes of Chimbonda and Steed Malbranc and all that sort of stuff. And this one, we hadn't beaten the Mags at home since 1980. And it was weird with this one because there was a crackle of you could just feel it in the air with this day, couldn't you? But there was almost, for the first time in quite some time, there was an expectation that actually we'd go out and do them in this game.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right there because we'd started okay, hadn't we, under Keane in that season. We had a really, really good start of the season, and they'd obviously brought Joe Kinnear in. But yeah, I think you're right. I think it was. I remember going into the game thinking we've got a chance here, and as you said, we hadn't beaten them for a little while, obviously since the two we've just mentioned. So you've gone through a little bit of tough times, they're getting the bragging rights and everything like that. But I remember going in thinking we are favourites for this, and but obviously all form goes out the window in derby games, and this is the first. We mentioned before about seeing it live. This is the first game I've watched us beat them live. Obviously the two other ones were beanbacks and stuff like that, and but this was the first one live, so it meant a great deal to me. Yeah, but as you said, we were probably going at that game as comfortable favourites as well, which was a bit weird because obviously we're known as being the plucky underdog and stuff like that. So there was an expectation to win, and luckily enough, they got it over the line.
Yeah. Same with me on this one. And I said that it was the first time I went thinking, "God, like we're going to beat them." And I don't know whether it was just because it was Joe Kinnear in the other dugout or what. But yeah, Roy King did try and elevate us that year, and it showed with the first goal scorer, Djibril Cissé, Andrew, because you do have this one second in your list, and you've got this one as sixth. But Andrew, Djibril Cissé scored that opener, and you kind of felt it around, but sure, I mean, Obi kind of pegged us back. But you still felt it. There was still this feeling. I just felt there was a proper crackle in the air, and I just thought, we're going to do it today, even when Amiobi equalised.
Yeah. The season before, we'd gone ahead against them, and they pulled, I think that was the Higginbotham one that Ant mentioned, and they levelled, and afterwards you were like, oh, are we ever going to beat this lot at home again? Whereas, yeah, the following year there was just something in the air that this is the time it's going to happen. I mean, we'd waited long enough. We all take the mick out of the Mags now because it's been about a decade since they've beaten us in a league game. But I think we'd gone like 28 years since beating them on Wearside, which is just a mad stat. And like yourselves, it was the first time I'd witnessed a home win over them. And tell you what a goal to make it happen. Cissé was a big name player. Kieran Richardson the year before when we signed him, he was a bit of a big statement purchase for us. And wow, just what a free kick that was, man. Just like a flipping traction engine.
Well, you knew as soon as it was given, didn't you? Because it was right on the edge of the box. I'm sure, and I'm going from memory here, but there might have been calls for a penalty. I can't remember exactly if it was close or not. I'm sure it was a daft trip by Nicky Butt, and I'm sure it was pretty close. And I'm sure actually Richardson took it back a yard or two from maybe where the actual foul was, yeah. But you could. I remember everyone was just standing up and everyone. But it was funny actually with it because it was that close. Everyone was going, "What's he going to do?" I actually thought, it's too close from this.
Yeah, and he tried it, didn't he, against, was it Fulham a couple of weeks previous, where it hit the post or we'd
hit both posts?
Yeah, it was, yeah, and you were thinking, and I think he tried it once where either it had gone in or, I think it had gone in and Chimbonda was interfering with play or something, he got given offside. I can't remember which game that was though, don't ask it.
It was the same one, Ant.
Was it the same one, was it? Yeah.
Chimbonda was like kind of pushing people over in the wall, so he had a few attempts against Fulham and couldn't get it over the line,
Yeah, so you knew he had it in his locker, but I mean, it was in, and he was running away before people had realised it had gone in, and it was one of them. Well, I've got a picture, actually, it's still on my computer, of that one where it hits the back of the net, and you've got like given caught like kind of like jumping up like that, and like I say, it's already in, and there's nobody behind them celebrating, nobody. You know what I mean? That's how quick it had gone, and it was a lovely, lovely free kick, and again gives Keane Richardson one of them ones where where like I say, who had a good career with something, didn't he? I'd say he's probably done a lot more than good than bad, but he's already up there. He's ranked up as a legend just for that goal. It made him a legend overnight, really, and and then obviously Q Wild celebrated a little bit of aggro after the game. I think was a little bit of a downside to it, but I think it was just released tension, I think, from every Sunderland fan who, like I say, for generations hadn't seen us win. Like I say, it was my first time seeing them there, and I would have been 22. So, so it is going back a little while. But yeah, no, really, really good win. And like I said, it was the start of it was a good season out under Keane. It didn't go quite well for him in the second season, but no, it was a really good season. That good to be back in the Premier League, and again, showing that we do what we do best by beating them, lads. So really, really cool, really, really cool. But a really good goal again. When we're looking at great, we always seem to score just great goals. We'll go into more, but we mentioned that Quinny header, Phillips's turn, and the chip. And then this one there, free kick, that flies into the net. It's a wonderful goal. So well done, Keane Richardson.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Andrew, just a couple of quick ones about this, because it did move us up to 9th on the table, actually. It didn't quite go to plan after that, but I was just looking. Yeah, it did take us up to 9th in the table. But the other thing about this game, and again, I'm going from memory, but I think it was, didn't Joey Barton return from a long ban, and he was jogging along the sidelines for this one, and he ended up replacing Nicky Butt with about 5 minutes to go. And the other thing is El Hadj Diouf, where this was probably his best game in a Sunderland shirt.
Well, Diouf, I think, was the one that won the free kick.
Yeah.
And everybody said it was perhaps the most productive thing he did in a Sunderland shirt. But I mean, El Hadj Diouf and Joey Barton together on a football pitch. I mean, dear me, that tells you a lot. Yeah, it did. It took us up to 9th, and I think, was this maybe Keane's last win in charge? Because didn't it all? I think by the time of the next home game, we got gubbed.
No, his last win was against Blackburn away, when I think it was Cisse shook his hand, wasn't it?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. But certainly, this was him finally giving us a home win over the Mags was one of his final, plus points. And I think, I don't know if it was this game or another game, but Roy Keane never had much time for the Mags. I remember he's definitely skewered them at one point, saying they go on like a big club, and what have they actually done? So he was perhaps the right man for us at that point to tell the players, listen, I know you haven't won against them since Jesus was a lad, but you can do it. And my final point on this one, Ant mentions that photo. It's a superb photo, and nobody has cottoned on that it's a goal. Nobody's up yet, but there's one poor lass with a back to it walking up the steps in this photo, and you just know that in a split second time she's going to get the shock of her life when thousands of people around her just suddenly go absolutely acca. I hope she got back to her seat safely, because she's lucky if she didn't fall down them stairs when everybody went wild.
Yeah, I remember I worked with a mag at the time, and actually that photograph, I got in early into work, and I put it on his screensaver. So when he booted it all up, that's all that came up on his screen. But anyway, moving on, because we had to wait 6 games and almost 5 years for another win after that, but it came completely out of the blue in April 2013, and yeah, it was 14th of April 2013, and of course, Paulo Di Canio had taken over Ant, and he had his first game where we got beat at Chelsea, and then it was Newcastle away next, and nobody really knew what to expect from this. And even the most positive Sunderland fan might not have expected what happened next.
Well, I'd like to put myself amongst those very positive Sunderland fans, because I do like to be positive. I always think the glass is half full and everything like that. But I tell you what, I was expecting in this game, Chris, because I remember vividly, I was expecting us to get absolutely spanked, because we weren't, like I say, we weren't great. We were dicing with that relegation trap door, and then in comes Paulo Di Canio, and I mean, it was just crazy what it was. Just like, obviously, the David Miller band left the club. They took the banner out of the stadium, and like, it was all going absolutely.
What a time, eh?
Oh, what's happening, your life? It was all going absolutely mental, and I can remember we're going to get stuffed in this game, but we didn't. It was an excellent performance. 3 wonderful goals. Started off with Stefan Sessignon. See, I'm terrible at naming players, honestly. Stefan, you'll get Anthony Gordon the other way, Craig Gordon, all this stuff. Stefan Sessignon, there we go.
With your best French accent there.
Well, he took a mixture of Messi and Pele. Made one, and it was Stefan Sessignon. A really good goal from him. To go 1-0 up. They huffed and puffed, didn't they? And then, we scored a second. But the game's remembered for the third goal, isn't it? The game's remembered for Davy Vaughan coming off the bench, putting a curler of a shot into the top corner. I actually forgot that Tim Krul went off injured until I was reading it back. That Tim Krul had gone off, and Rob Elliott's in goal, and, he's just swatting at fairies. Swatting at anything, and then the knee slide, the Paulo Di Canio knee slide, 3-0, absolutely unbelievable moment. I remember watching it, they got kicked out the pub for shouting too loud. It was an unbelievable moment, that one was, and that's the start of the 6 in a row as well, isn't it? So you just got to remember fondly. I know Di Canio's tenure didn't last very long and ended quite badly. He peed a few people off, but that was quite a moment.
Yeah. Well, I think you've got this on as 4th on your list, and Andrew, you've got this 6th on your list. And yeah, it was an incredible day. It's easy to forget that Alan Pardew was the other manager that day. And actually, I was looking at the league table. We were outside the relegation zone on goal difference. We were level on points with Wigan. So we were 17th, Wigan were 18th on 31 points. QPR Reading were good 7 points behind, but Newcastle were only 5 points behind. So actually, with this win, we were potentially kind of dragging them back into it, because I think they were thinking they were kind of safe in mid-table. But yeah, still, nobody expected this at all. And there was I don't know if you've got it up in front of you, Andrew, but there was a person who I completely forgot made his debut that day.
I haven't, but was it? It was. I've forgotten his Mangan.
Yes. Oh, Kader Mangan.
Yes, it was.
Kader.
He made his debut. Came on for Quayler with about 20 minutes to go. And actually, at the time when he came on, it was only 1-0, so it was still in the balance. And he came on, and we ended up winning 3-0. But yeah, I mean, look, we talk about Di Canio and whatever you think about him, the knee slide, it is iconic, but there's always that thing because of, like Ant said, Andrew, everything that went into the whole Di Canio palaver just slightly takes the shine off this, maybe?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, Di Canio, a bit like Quinn, obviously Keane, sorry. Obviously, we know that the rest of his management career with us was an absolute disaster. But on the day, he was perhaps the right type of character, because didn't he pat the back of Pardew's head beforehand and like just proper like belittle him? And again, it was a kind of like, oh God, yeah, we're here to stand up for ourselves. Also, was that the game where they scored a goal that was then offside? And there's a brilliant clip of Pardew celebrating, but then he sees the linesman's flag and just like head in hands. So again, another little moment of the Mags getting a brief second of joy.
I might have been at the Stadium of Light. I can't
Oh,
remember.
Do you remember
I'm
do you
mixing
remember
the two up now.
Do you remember the 1-1 draw where Amiobi scored late for them, but they got a penalty, and obviously Mignolet saved it, and he started celebrating, and Martin O'Neill went over it. Do you remember?
Well, it could have been that. I mean, again, we've said this. There's so many good results against Newcastle. It's hard to remember. But the Di Canio thing, there was a kind of us against the world situation, because I remember at the time, obviously, his politics, I've got no time for them. But I do remember thinking it was a bit of a hatchet job on Sunderland, because Paolo Di Canio had played in England for years.
Yeah.
He was a big West Ham fan. Nobody once ever criticised West Ham. But
Or
then
Swindon.
Swindon. But for some reason, he came to Sunderland, and it wasn't just football supporters. It was like national news, and people were talking about it, and people were having an opinion on Sunderland and making all these claims without having the foggiest idea about the club. So I don't defend his politics, but I do feel as if Sunderland got a rough ride, particularly then when you see what happens when Newcastle got involved with a dictatorship. But that's an argument for a different day. So I do remember feeling, we're taking on the world here, and we stood up for ourselves, and it was like the start of this. Actually, Sunderland don't need to bow down to the Mags. We can give them as good as we've got. And that David Vaughan strike, just brilliant. Just again, you both said it. How many times have we scored against them and it's been like a proper worldie? Just adds to it. Brilliant.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, look, this was, again, I said, with Di Canio, it was like his second game or something, and there was a bit. This happened seemingly this rinse and repeat year after year, because we have to go forward 6 months to October 2013 for the next one, because there's a different manager in the Sunderland dugout, which was, of course, Gus Poyet. He took over the game. So his first game was the game before, just like Di Canio's. It was this second game. And actually, in that game, in his first game, we got absolutely hammered away at Swansea City, 4-0. And everyone thought, we're rooted bottom of the table. We hadn't won yet. That's, that season, because Di Canio hadn't won. And then I think the games that Kevin Ball had as caretaker, I think he beat Peterborough in the cup, but then he got beat against Liverpool and Manchester United at home. Gus Poyet took over, got beat against Swansea 4-0. We are rooted to the bottom of the table with 1 point. We are 7 points adrift of safety at the bottom of the table. And then Newcastle come to town, and Alan Pardew's Newcastle come to town. And again, just like the last one, you just don't expect it, and it just comes out of nowhere.
It did, as you said. Again, expecting to get guffed. I was expecting us to get hammered, because we hadn't, like you say, we hadn't started that season with at all, and just depends with Paolo Di Canio. But then up comes War Gus and his bus. You mentioned a magic carpet ride, on a lovely bus journey with Gus. But I remember this again. Remember this one being one where I was thinking, we are going to get beat this one. I think I was just expecting they had a good side, didn't they? Like Johan Cabaye, Czech Tiore. I think it was. They'd have Loic Remy playing up front for them as well, and he came with a lot of
Ben Arthur was in there.
Ben Arthur, yeah. They came in at a decent side. But no, we played really well in that. Again, we played really well in that game. Obviously, Stephen Fletcher giving us the lead. With a really good header. They equalise, and it becomes really, really scrappy and nervy and stuff. Then becomes the greatest assist of all time, Josie Altidore trying to trap a ball. It falls to the lad, falls to the little Italian. Fabio Reidy, one touch, out his feet, bang, top corner. We're talking about great goals. He's another one. Absolutely superb strike. He does his little celebration, all that. We didn't have a clue where he was. But we did after that. Absolutely amazing scenes. Lovely, lovely finish. And kind of kick-started us a little bit, didn't it, with that one? Getting a win over them again, Alan Pardew. Absolutely superb. Absolutely superb, man.
Yeah, and there was a player making his debut for Sunderland. Andrea De Sena was making his full debut for Sunderland in the starting 11. And as you said, and if anyone missed this, by the way, Fabio Brini talked with Gav in the build-up to the game build-up to the derby. So if you want to go back and listen to that, because he talks about what he thought of Altidor's assist, let's say. But he came on with 20 minutes to go, and then with 5 minutes to go, he produces that, Andrew. But again, late in the day, we talk about the most recent one, last minute. This was only 5 minutes from time. And with these games, you sometimes think, right, because both sides don't want to lose so much, that it's just going to peter out into a draw. And then Barini makes sure he's close to Altidore because it might bounce off him, and the rest is history.
Listen, justice for Josie. Because we're going to go on to another game where he was at St. James, and I think, if I remember rightly, I think it was one of his best games for Sunderland, like to the point where Brian Broby probably watched the video of it and thought, right, I'm going to base my game against the Mags on Josie Altidore. So I'll have no bad words for Josie Altidore. I can't believe I've just said that out loud. That's not me bandy. Isn't it funny? Desena and Mangan, was it Magan or Mangan? I can't remember.
Mangan.
Yeah. Isn't it funny? You couldn't wish for a better Sunderland debut than to play against a big important win against Newcastle. And then for both of them, that was it. They just didn't do anything else positive in a Sunderland shirt. It was an odd game. You weren't expecting it. Like you say, Chris, a lot of these games follow similar patterns, and like the previous 2-1 at the stadium, I think we went ahead, they then equalised, and you do perhaps think to yourself, we've given up the lead, but as long as we don't lose, we can save face. As long as we don't let them come from behind to win, we can just about cope with it. And then Barini pops up with a screamer, and it's another iconic goal against the Mags. We don't do tap-ins against Newcastle. And a couple of things that have just popped in my mind from a previous game. And I don't know what pubs you drink in, but if you're getting thrown out of pubs for making noise for scoring against Newcastle, they don't deserve your custom.
It was the library in Durham.
Are you sure it wasn't the actual library?
No, it was
the strawberry.
The manager had said to the bar.
She was bar.
The manager had said to one of the bouncers, he was like, "Oh, keep an eye on him. He's been far too loud anymore. He's out." And the bouncer was one of my mates. So he just come down. He goes, "Oh, you pissed the manager off." I went, "Oh, he must be a mug." He was like, "Keep it down." I went, "Nah." So
I don't blame you. And also, you did that beautiful French accent earlier. Do you remember? Do you remember around this time they had a scout who seemed to he must have had a timeshare in France, because he only ever bought players from France for Newcastle.
Graham Carr, wasn't it?
Graham
Alan
Carr,
Carr's
yeah.
dad, isn't it? Yeah.
And they had this bizarre thing where they would all turn up with French flags or the French colours face painted onto them, and they all, I don't know, they only ever ate baguettes for 12 months. So that was just another random period in Newcastle history. I don't even know why that cropped up, but yeah, just...
I can't believe I didn't mention them celebrating sexy football when Ruud Gullit took over back in the day when we did those early ones. But to get into our last one in part one, and actually just incidentally, you guys had that one, Andrew, you had that one 8th in your list, and you had that one 9th. And you've got this next one 2nd in your list, because 4 months later we travelled to St James's Park. It was a few weeks before the League Cup final, actually. Gustavo Poyet, obviously in the Sunderland dugout, and of course 1st of February 2014, Alan Pardew was in the Newcastle dugout, and again, we'd kind of sorted ourselves out, in terms of we'd booked a place at the League Cup final, of course, but in terms of the table, I said we were 7 points adrift in the first game. By this point, we were 2 points clear of West Ham, so we'd actually lifted ourselves out of the relegation places, but it was still touch and go, and Gus Poyet tried to strengthen by buying Liam Bridcut, and this was his debut. But again, we went there, and you look at Newcastle at the time; they were 8th in the table, 3 points behind Manchester United. So they were kind of chasing the top 6 places, and again, out of the blue, nobody expected it, and we keep repeating ourselves, but this was a period of time where every time we did it, it was kind of a fool's hope, wasn't it?
This for me is probably the most comfortable derby we've ever won, because we were unreal that day, absolutely unbelievable. You mentioned Liam Bridcut, and I mean, he just looked like a world beater, didn't he? And that, sitting in front of the back four, and you were like, "Who's this?" He was absolutely class. I mean, it was his finest moment, probably of his career. To be fair, how good he was. He never quite reciprocated that performance. But I'm just looking at the teams here now, and you mentioned, Andrew just mentioned before them signing all these French lads. I cannot remember this man at all. Sylvain Marveau. Now, I don't know who he is. And then even better, the centre half, Mapu Yanga Mbiwa. Who the hell was he? He was on the bench. Sorry, he wasn't. He was on the bench, so I don't know. There might be but Sylvain Marveau came on. When you're looking at it, you're thinking, I can't remember you. And I like to think I'm not so much an expert in football. I can remember some of these players, but no, he's one of them that does it. He is a Kadamangan. But again, I'm digressing. A really, really classy win from us. And we have to talk about Fabio Barini again, don't we? The penalty, him smiling, laughing at Tim Krul, trying to put him off. And this had been like the year after Tim Krul had made them saves for Holland. He'd come on, didn't he, off the bench in the Euros, and he'd put a couple of players off, and I got them there. I think we got them at the semi-finals of the Euros, I want to say. It was either Euros or the World Cup. But I had brought them off. I think it was Louis van Gaal had brought them on the pitch to replace the goalkeeper in extra time. And he was trying to do exactly the same things to Fabio Barini, and Barini just laughing at him. And then he puts it in the back of the net, stands on whatever advertising boards. Absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing. Then obviously we scored straight away afterwards, didn't we? 2 or 3 minutes after that. And then obviously the third goal, Jack Colback, Newcastle fan, comes and does what he does and shushes the crowd. Amazing win. Again, and Andrew's touched on it, Altidore, who didn't have that many fine moments in the sun as a Sunderland player, he was outstanding in that game. Absolutely outstanding. The space he was creating for us to get in behind, the space he made for Barini, and Barini destroyed their defence. And like I say, he has a checkered career at Sunderland, missing a lot of good chances and stuff like that. But I think Josie Altidore is a big what if at Sunderland. Like, if he'd scored early on in his career, would he have been different? I kind of think so, because there was a player there, and and everywhere else he's been, he has succeeded. It was just a pity, at Sunderland he didn't. But that game, he was absolutely immense. He was a complete rock, and it was a great win. I love that strip as well. That strip's just reminds us so much, and Marcus Alonso as well, giving it the big uns, and he's never forgotten, he's never forgotten his spell at Sunderland, has he? He loved every minute of it. He loved that and all that, and it was class. Really, really good win, and a nice little win for us again, as you said, because it was probably unexpected, but us getting at that League Cup, and it ended up being like the start of where it became this toxic club, toxic culture, and Poyet said that not many 2 weeks after that. So it was a high moment before a little bit of low for the Great Escape.
Yeah. Well, that's it. Andrew, it was, you've got this 7th in your list, and had this at 2nd, but it was an unbelievable time. Like you say, I think it was only, less than 2 weeks before we'd had that game at Old Trafford and got through to the final. And then we knew that we had a League Cup final to look forward to. Then we travelled to St James's, but we're still in trouble. And then we'd actually beaten Stoke a few days before this to lift us out of the relegation zone. And after being bottom and down and out after, like I said, the first time we played them, 7 points adrift at the bottom of the table, eight games in, and we've only got 1 point on the table to turn it around and get into this situation and then go there and beat them 3-0. I mean, it's an unbelievable turnaround when you look back.
Oh, yeah. It's a crazy season, that, when you look back on it, because the highlights were some absolutely brilliant moments in Sunderland history. The derby, the double over the Mags, the semi-final at Old Trafford. We beat them in the league at Old Trafford for the first time in a generation. I think we were the first team to win at Chelsea in an age. So yeah, the turnaround that season was fantastic because we had so many great memories, and yet the stuff in between was pretty rubbish at times, pretty grim. This game, like you say, it's 7th in my list, but I feel a bit bad because it could very easily be much higher up. It's so many good memories. I loved listening to Ant there as he was going through it. If you dig out the video, it was only 12 years ago, but crikey, some of the fashions in the stand and some of the haircuts, people love to right clip. Ant mentioned when Barini was stood on the hoardings, and there's just hundreds of them giving him dog's abuse. But just some of them looked absolutely comical. It was probably the most one-sided of the lot. It could have easily been more than 3. Cruel. We've touched on Cruel a couple of times now. He's a funny one because he's like Barton and a few of them who, even though they've left the Mags, they seem so desperate for, like, I don't know, approval from the Newcastle fan base.
Yeah.
They're always making sly digs at Sunderland years later, and you just think, man, you're desperate. It's like you've been dumped off a lass and you're trying to get back with her. It just pathetic. So yeah, Tim Krul, it's always nice remembering seeing him getting beaten by a couple of great goals, and it comes to something when a comprehensive 3-0 win over that lot can't even get in me top 5. It just shows you how many good times we've had in recent years.
Yeah. Well, I know Ant had this second, so I apologise for potentially taking the shine off it a little bit, Ant. But we after this game, in typical Sunderland fashion, maybe at the time, we then went 9 without a win in the league. And in addition to that, in that run, we also obviously lost against Manchester City in the cup final. But we also got knocked out of the FA Cup by Hull City in the cup.
Oh, I was at that game. That was horrible.
Yeah, so that's what happened. That was a follow-up to this fantastic 3-0 win.
Chris, just very quickly as well, you know how you mentioned was it the last one when Dossena made his debut?
Yes.
Wasn't the game after that when him and Catmull got sent off against Hull?
Oh, then who was the ref that day? It was absolutely ridiculous.
That's a fair point, in that often, I bet you, if you look at a lot of these wins, we would then follow it up with an absolute dog's dinner of a performance.
I'm sure that was the game after. I'm sure, because I remember Dossena definitely got sent off because his was quite a bad tackle, but Catmull's was never a red card. But I'm sure it was the game. It wouldn't have been not long after, like a couple of games after that.
No, you're right. It was the one after that. Absolutely right. Yeah.
There you got it.
Yeah. And we only lost that because of an own goal by Quayler.
Yes.
And there was David Myler, Paul McShane and El Mohammadi in the Hull side that day. And Steve Bruce was their manager. So thanks for that.
I know, but yeah, it gets you back for mentioning that whole cup game, because honestly, that's the worst game I've ever seen. Like, it being there, it was awful. Awful.
Yeah. Yeah. But anyway, in amongst all these fantastic memories, let's put them to one side, because Look, we're just over halfway through the 11, so I think that is a really good place to end part 1 of this. And it just leaves me to say thank you to Andrew and Ant. Thank you very much, gents. And thank you for listening. We'll be back with part 2 very soon. So until then, it's bye for now.